Welcome to our deep dive on atomic habits.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're going to be taking excerpts from the book and a summary that you provided,
Right.
and really digging into how tiny changes that we make can create massive shifts over time.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a secret weapon for self-improvement. But
Yeah.
before we get into the how-tos,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
have you ever felt like you were putting in the work but not seeing any results?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're pushing a boulder uphill and you're getting nowhere.
It's a common experience.
Yeah.
And James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, he actually gives it a name,
Oh, wow.
the plateau of latent potential.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah,
That's a really vivid image.
it is.
So, can you unpack that for us? What does that mean?
Yeah, so imagine you're melting an ice cube, right?
Okay.
You keep applying heat, but for a while nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly,
Yeah.
boom, you hit that critical temperature and the ice melts.
Yeah.
Our efforts toward building habits often work the same way.
Mm.
It can feel like nothing's happening
Yeah.
until we cross that threshold.
Right.
And
right.
then the change just seems to appear out of nowhere.
So it's not that our effort is wasted. It's
Yeah.
more like we're building up to that breakthrough moment.
Exactly.
Which brings me to something else that Clear talks about,
Yeah.
the importance of systems over goals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated by this idea.
Yeah.
Can you unpack it a bit for us?
Yeah. So we often get so fixated on the end goal,
Mm-hmm.
like losing weight, getting a promotion, writing a book.
Right.
But what really drives the success
Yeah.
is the system you have in place,
Okay.
the day-to-day actions that get you there.
So it's less about saying, I want to write a book,
Yes.
and more about building a system for consistent writing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
Let's say your goal is to run a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
The system is all the training, the
Mhm.
nutrition plan,
Yeah.
the early morning runs.
Mm-hmm.
Cleary used a really good story of British cycling to illustrate this.
Okay.
They completely dominated the Tour de France for years
Oh, wow.
by implementing a system of continuous tiny improvements.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah,
What kind of tiny improvements are we talking about?
they optimized everything
Wow.
from the type of pillow the cyclists slept on
Wow.
to the
Correct.
specific massage gels that they used.
Wow.
It was a commitment to getting 1% better
Yeah.
in every facet of their training.
Yeah.
And it worked.
So it's really about shifting the focus from the destination to the journey.
To the journey, exactly.
And that journey is built on habits.
Yes,
Okay. So Clear breaks down change into 3 levels:
he does.
outcomes,
Yep.
processes,
Yep.
and identity.
Uh-huh.
So outcomes are what most people focus on.
Right.
Losing weight, getting that promotion.
Mhm.
But process change is about the actions you take.
Yeah,
Going to the gym, working late.
right.
The deepest level, though, is identity change.
That's right.
And identity change is where the real magic happens, right?
Yes.
It's not just about doing the things,
Mhm.
but about becoming the type of person who does those things.
Absolutely.
So instead of forcing yourself to go to the gym,
Right.
what if you focused on becoming the kind of person
Yeah.
who values fitness
Hmm.
and enjoys moving their body?
Yes.
It's a subtle shift,
It is.
but incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the example that Claire gives about someone who quits smoking.
Mhm.
Instead of saying, I'm trying to quit, they
Right.
say, I'm not a smoker.
Yeah.
Such a small change in language.
I know. It's so powerful.
But it reflects a whole new identity.
It really does.
They're no longer someone who's battling a bad habit.
Right.
They have redefined who they are.
That's it.
Okay, this is all really insightful.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this into practice?
Right.
How do we go from wanting to change to actually changing?
That is the question.
That is the question.
And that's where Clear's 4 laws of behavior change come in.
Okay.
These are actionable steps
Mhm.
that you can take to build better habits.
Okay.
They're simple, but don't let that fool you.
Yeah.
They're incredibly powerful.
Let's dive into those.
Okay.
What's the first law?
The first one is make it obvious.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the cues that trigger your habits.
Okay.
You can use something called implementation intentions,
Okay.
which is a fancy way of saying
Yeah.
you decide exactly when and where you'll do your habit.
So instead of just saying, I'll meditate more,
Right.
you would say, after I pour my morning coffee,
Yeah,
I will meditate for 5 minutes.
exactly.
Okay.
It's about creating a clear trigger.
Got it.
Now, think about how this applies to breaking a bad habit.
Okay.
The inversion of the first law is make it invisible.
Oh, okay.
So if you're constantly triggered by something
Yeah.
that leads to a bad habit,
Mm-hmm.
you need to remove that trigger.
out a mind, as they say.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. What's
Yeah.
the second law?
The second law is make it attractive.
Okay.
And this is all about tapping into your cravings.
Okay.
One technique Clear suggests is temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling.
Yes.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
It's about pairing something you want to do
Okay.
with something that you need to do.
Okay.
For example,
Mm-hmm.
you could only allow yourself to watch your favorite TV show
Yeah.
while you're on the treadmill.
Brilliant.
Right.
So you're basically making the thing you need to do
Yes.
more appealing by linking it to something you enjoy.
Exactly.
How about the inversion for breaking a bad habit?
The inversion would be make it unattractive.
Okay.
And we could do this by highlighting the negative consequences of a bad habit.
Like focusing on how sluggish and gross you feel
Exactly.
after eating a whole bag of chips.
Exactly. It's about shifting your perception of the habit.
Got it.
Okay. Ready for law number 3?
Hit me with it.
Law number 3 is make it easy.
Okay.
And this one focuses on the action itself.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is to reduce friction as much as possible.
Okay.
Clear suggests the 2-minute rule here.
Okay. I've heard of this one.
Have you?
It's about making the habit so simple
Yes.
that it takes less than 2 minutes to start, right?
That's the gist of it.
Okay.
So instead of trying to run 5 miles,
Yeah.
you commit to just putting on your running shoes.
Right.
Or instead of writing a whole chapter of a book,
Mm-hmm.
you aim to just write one sentence.
Because something is always better than nothing,
Right.
and sometimes just getting started is the hardest part.
It really is.
So how do we make a bad habit difficult?
The inversion is make it difficult.
Okay.
For example, if you're trying to cut back on social media,
Hmm.
you could log out of all your accounts.
Okay.
So you have to go through the extra step of entering your password every time.
Right.
Or you could delete those time-wasting apps from your phone altogether.
Okay. This is giving me some ideas.
Good.
I'm ready for the fourth and final law.
Okay? The fourth law is make it satisfying.
Okay.
This is all about the reward.
Okay.
We're much more likely to stick with a habit if it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you can use things like habit tracking,
Yeah.
rewards,
Mm-hmm.
or even just making sure the habit aligns with your identity,
Right.
which we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's like giving yourself a little pat on the back each
Yes.
time you do the thing, right?
Yes.
And the inversion for breaking bad habits is,
Make it unsatisfying.
okay.
You can add a cost
Yeah.
or consequence to those bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
Clear talks about a habit contract.
Yeah.
You can even make it a little fun.
Yeah.
Like if you miss your workout,
Mm-hmm.
you have to donate to a cause that you don't support.
Oh, now that's clever.
Right.
It definitely adds a layer of accountability.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our 4 laws.
We do.
Make it obvious,
Uh-huh.
make it attractive,
Yeah.
make it easy,
Yes.
and make it satisfying. There's so much to unpack here,
there is.
and we're just getting started.
We are.
But before we dive any deeper,
Yeah.
I want to touch on something that really caught my attention in the book.
Okay.
The influence our environment has on our habits.
This is such an important point.
Yeah,
Our environment is constantly shaping our behavior,
right.
whether we realize it or not.
Clear tells this wild story about Dutch researchers
Oh, yeah.
who discovered that people living in a certain suburb used significantly less energy
Interesting.
than their neighbors.
Wow.
And it all boiled down to the location of their thermostat.
It's amazing how much these seemingly small details can
Yeah.
impact our actions.
So it's not just about willpower.
Right.
It's about consciously shaping our surroundings to make
Yeah.
good habits easier
Yep.
and bad habits harder.
Exactly.
This has me thinking about all the ways that
Yeah.
I can re-engineer my own space
Right.
to support my goals.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is exciting. We've got so much more to discuss.
We do.
Habit stacking,
Yep.
2-minute rule,
Mhm.
the importance of repetition.
All good stuff.
But I think we're at a good stopping point for now.
Okay.
So,
Let's take a moment to process all of this.
yeah,
There's a lot to take in.
there is.
When we come back,
Yeah.
we'll continue our deep dive into atomic habits and explore even more actionable strategies
Okay.
for building the life you want.
All right.
One small habit at a time.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
I don't know about you, but my mind is buzzing with all these ideas about how to tweak my habits, both big and small.
Yeah, it's exciting, right?
It is exciting.
It's good framework.
So before the break, we
Yeah.
were getting deep into the 4 laws of behavior change.
Yeah.
And it struck me that when you think about them
Uh-huh.
in terms of breaking bad habits, making them invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying,
Yeah,
there's a common thread running through all of them.
you're exactly right. Yeah.
It's all about increasing friction
Yeah.
for those unwanted behaviors.
Right.
We make them harder to do, less appealing, and less rewarding,
Yeah.
so they gradually lose their hold on us.
It's like we're gently nudging ourselves in the right direction.
We are.
At the same time, we're decreasing friction
Yes.
for the good habits.
Yes.
Those 1% improvements that add up over time.
That's it.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
let's circle back to that 2-minute rule for a moment.
Okay.
I've been using it to get myself writing more.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how such a simple shift in thinking
It is.
can make such a big difference.
It's almost like a mental hack, isn't it?
It is.
We often get overwhelmed by the enormity of a task.
Right.
You know, cleaning the entire house,
Right.
writing a novel,
Yeah.
learning a new language.
Yeah.
But the 2-minute rule helps us break it down
Yeah.
into something so ridiculously easy that we can't say no.
Exactly. And I find it
Yeah.
especially helpful on those days when I'm just not feeling it.
I'll tell myself just write for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And more often than not, once those 2 minutes are up, I'm actually enjoying myself.
Right.
And I want to keep going.
You get that momentum going.
Yeah, and you're not relying solely on willpower.
Yeah.
Which, let's face it, can be a little fickle.
It can.
So the 2-minute rule helps us get started.
Yeah.
But what about those times when we've been doing well with a habit
Yeah.
and then life throws a curveball
Yeah.
and we fall off track?
It happens.
Any advice for bouncing back from those setbacks?
Yeah. So this is where Clear's never miss twice rule comes into play.
Oh, okay.
It's a reminder that perfection isn't the goal.
Right.
Life happens.
Yeah.
We're going to miss a workout or skip a meditation session here and there.
Yeah.
The key is to not let one slip up turn into a full-blown derailment.
It's about being kind to ourselves
Yes.
and understanding that setbacks are a normal part of the process,
Absolutely.
not a sign of failure.
Yeah.
And when those slip-ups do happen, we can use them as learning opportunities.
Yes.
How so?
Well, we can ask ourselves what triggered this setback.
Okay.
Was there something in my environment or my routine that made it harder to stick to my habit?
So if I realize that I always reach for sugary snacks when I'm stressed,
Right.
I can proactively plan for those moments by having healthier options on hand
Exactly.
or finding a different way to manage my stress.
Yeah, it's about becoming a detective of our own habits,
Right.
identifying those patterns and making adjustments
I like that.
to set ourselves up for success.
I want to go back to something we were discussing earlier.
Okay.
The idea of finding your zone of genius
Yeah.
and aligning your habits with your personality.
Mm-hmm.
It's so empowering to think that we don't have to be good at everything.
Yes.
That we can actually leverage our natural inclination
Yes.
to create a life that feels more authentic and fulfilling.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Clear makes a great point about playing a game
Yeah.
where the odds are in your favor.
Yeah.
And that starts with understanding
Yeah.
your own strengths and tendencies.
It's almost like we each have our superpower.
We do.
And the key is to discover it
Yes.
and then learn how to use it effectively.
To discover those superpowers, though,
Yeah.
we need to embrace that explore-exploit trade-off that we
Yeah.
talked about earlier.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it's all about exploration,
Mhm.
trying new things, stepping outside of our comfort zones,
Right.
and seeing what sparks joy and what feels like a natural fit.
It's like trying on different hats to see which one suits you best.
It is.
Now, there is one aspect of habit formation that I find both fascinating and a bit daunting:
Okay.
the power of novelty
Yes.
and those unpredictable rewards that keep us coming back for more.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about that dopamine hit we get
Yeah.
when we experience something new or exciting.
Right.
It's a powerful force that can be harnessed for good,
Yeah.
but it can also lead us down some tricky paths if we're not careful.
I think we're wired to crave those bursts of novelty.
Right. But the danger is that we become addicted to the chase.
Yeah.
Constantly seeking the next shiny object
Mm.
or that fleeting sense of excitement.
And this can be especially challenging when it comes to breaking bad habits.
Yeah.
Take social media, for example. You
Yeah.
post something and you don't know if you're going to get 10 likes or 100.
Right.
It's that unpredictable reward system
Yeah.
that keeps us scrolling and refreshing.
It's like we're playing a slot machine
Yes.
with our attention spans.
The key is awareness.
Right.
By understanding how these variable rewards work,
Yeah.
we can make more conscious choices about how we engage with them.
So it's not about eliminating novelty altogether.
No.
It's about finding healthier and more sustainable ways to
Yes.
satisfy that craving.
Exactly.
We can explore new hobbies, travel to new places, engage in creative pursuits. There are
Yes.
so many ways to inject novelty into our
Here
lives
are.
without becoming dependent on those unpredictable dopamine hits.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We have.
We've explored how to make good habits easier
Yep.
and bad habits harder.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the importance of understanding our own personalities
Yes.
and finding our zone of genius.
Absolutely.
But there's one piece of the puzzle that we haven't addressed yet.
Okay.
What about those times when we just don't feel like doing the thing,
Yeah.
even if it's a good habit?
That's where discipline and consistency come into play.
Okay.
This is where the rubber meets the road,
Yeah.
and it's often the factor that separates those who achieve their goals
Mm-hmm.
from those who don't.
So how do we cultivate that discipline, especially when motivation is waning?
Clear emphasizes the importance of focusing on the process, not the outcome.
Okay.
It's about showing up and putting in the work day in and day out,
Mm.
even when we don't feel like it.
Right.
Because let's be honest,
Yeah.
motivation is a fickle friend.
It
and
is.
It comes and goes.
So we can't rely on feeling inspired or excited all the time.
Those are the days that really test our commitment.
Right.
Clear talks about the Career Best Effort program.
Okay.
It was used by the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, wow.
They didn't just focus on wins and losses.
Mm-hmm.
They tracked even the smallest improvements made by the players.
So it was about recognizing and rewarding effort,
Yes.
even if it didn't lead to immediate visible results.
And by celebrating those small wins,
Yeah.
they built momentum and created a culture of continuous improvement.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
Good.
Okay, I think we're ready to tackle the final piece of the Atomic Habits puzzle,
Okay.
reflection.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're circling back to this
Yeah.
because I feel like it's often overlooked
It is.
in the rush to implement new habits.
Reflection is essential for long-term growth
Right.
and ensuring that our habits are actually serving us.
Mm.
It's about taking a step back
Yeah.
and honestly assessing
Mm-hmm.
what's working, what's not,
Yeah.
and where we can make adjustments.
It's like taking stock of our inventory. Yes.
And seeing what needs to be restocked, discarded, or rearranged.
Clear recommends having a system for reflection,
Okay.
whether it's journaling, a weekly review,
Hmm.
or simply taking a few minutes each day to reflect on your wins and losses.
He also shares examples of top performers,
He does.
like Eliud Kipchoge,
Yes.
the marathon world record holder,
Yes.
who takes detailed notes after every practice,
Wow.
and Katie Ledecky,
Mm-hmm.
the Olympic swimmer,
Yes.
who meticulously journals her wellness and training times
Yes.
to identify patterns and areas for improvement.
It's a reminder that even the best in the world are constantly striving to learn and grow.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been an incredibly insightful discussion.
It has.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of atomic habits.
Yeah.
But I'm already buzzing with ideas about how I can apply these concepts to my own life.
And that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about mastering every concept
Right.
or implementing every technique.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you.
And building a system that supports your unique goals and personality.
Before we move on, I want to take
Yeah.
a moment to acknowledge that building new habits and breaking old ones
Yes.
can be challenging.
It is.
It's not always easy,
Right.
and it's definitely not a linear process.
That's so true.
Yeah.
There will be times when you feel discouraged or tempted to give up.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is to remember that every small step you take is a victory.
And you don't have to do it alone.
You don't.
Find an accountability partner, join a community, or simply remind yourself
Yeah.
that every successful person has faced challenges along the way.
What matters most is that you keep showing up,
Yeah.
keep learning, and keep striving to be just 1% better each day.
Okay, folks, we're going to take a short break to let all this goodness sink in.
Okay.
But we'll be right back to wrap up our deep dive into atomic habits with some final thoughts and key takeaways.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive on atomic habits. We've covered so much ground, from the power of tiny changes to the importance of systems over goals, the 4 laws of behavior change, and even the sneaky influence of our environment.
It's alive.
And we've explored how those seemingly insignificant 1% improvements can compound over time,
Yeah,
leading to remarkable transformations.
absolutely.
It's like that penny
Oh, yeah.
that doubles every day for a month.
Mm-hmm.
It might not seem like much at first, but by the end, you're rolling in dough.
You are.
Okay, maybe not literally, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Small changes, consistently applied,
Yes.
can create massive results.
That's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of this whole concept.
Yeah.
You don't need some grand, sweeping overhaul of your life
No, you don't.
to make real progress.
It's about focusing on those incremental steps,
Yeah.
those atomic habits that move you closer to your goals.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to put you on the spot for a moment.
Okay.
If you had to pick just one atomic habit to start implementing today,
Yeah.
what would it be?
I mean, it could be something as simple as drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning,
Okay.
taking a 5-minute walk during your lunch break,
Mm-hmm.
or spending 2 minutes tidying up your workspace
Right.
before you leave for the day.
The key is to choose something that feels manageable.
Yes.
Something you can realistically commit to doing every day,
Right.
even if it's just for a few minutes.
Remember, we're aiming for consistency here.
Right.
You don't have to be perfect,
Mm.
but you do have to show up.
Yeah.
And over time, those small actions will start to add up in a big way.
And don't forget about those 4 laws we discussed.
Right.
Make your new habit obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
It's a good recipe.
And you'll be well on your way to making it stick.
You will.
We've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
but the journey of self-improvement is an ongoing one.
That's right.
There's always room for growth, always new habits to cultivate, and new challenges to overcome. What's really resonated with me throughout this deep dive
Yeah.
is that it's not about becoming some superhuman version of ourselves.
No, it's not.
It's about embracing those small, consistent actions
Mm-hmm.
that gradually shape us into the people we want to be.
It's about showing up for ourselves.
Right.
Even on those days when we don't feel like it.
Yeah.
It's about being patient with the process
Mm-hmm.
and trusting that those tiny changes will lead us to extraordinary results.
So as you go about your day,
Yeah.
I encourage you to think about what small habit you can implement.
Right.
What tiny change you can make that will set you on the path towards becoming the best version of yourself.
And remember, the power to transform your life lies within those atomic habits.
Yeah,
It's not magic.
right.
It's simply the science of small, consistent actions compounded over time.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into atomic habits.
been fun.
We hope you found it insightful, inspiring,
Mhm.
and maybe even a little bit life-changing.
I hope so.
Until next time, keep those tiny wins coming.
Keep them coming.